Hey, what is up? I am Chris Davis, of course, and today on CJD Explains, we're going to talk about maximizing the impact and outreach of your video content by creating alternate versions for an audience that wants text and an audience that might want audio. Okay, so all the work that you put into these videos is great, and the impact of video is supreme and amazing, and it's awesome that you're doing that. But there are audiences that you are kind of missing out on by only doing video. Audiences that might want to read what you're talking about as opposed to sitting in front of a device and sticking their head into it and watching it. And those who might want to listen to it, say on their commute to work or their commute home, that sort of thing. There are other fringe benefits as well. By creating content that lives in different places, you are activating audiences that you might not have if you're only on one. For instance, being able to take what you're doing in a video and creating a blog post or a Medium post out of it means that you're now going to get that content into search engines in a way that just doesn't exist for things like video. That way, when someone is searching for, in Google, say, or Bing or whatever, a topic like sharpening knives, they're going to get really rich content about that from you because you took the time to make a blog post or a Medium post about it that then links to your video about it, so you can drive them from that search result, if they don't want to read that content, to your video. And the same thing goes for an audio version of what you're doing. You might have someone who is driving their car and they want to consume this content that you have about sharpening knives, but obviously they can't watch it because they're driving their car. Creating an audio version means they can subscribe to that podcast, then listen to it in the car anytime they want. And that is just good for you. And in that podcast, you can then reference that it's also a video series. Go check out my YouTube channel, all of that stuff. The beautiful thing about this whole process, which sounds like a lot of work, is that it is almost no extra work. As long as you go into crafting your videos with the idea that you want to have a textual representation and an audio representation. It just takes a little bit of work at the beginning and then one extra step at the end, really, and you are good to go. You're golden. The other beautiful point about this is that it costs you nothing to do. Submitting to Apple for their iTunes podcast feed and submitting to the Google Play Store, it's all free. And you can even get free hosting for everything by going to a place like WordPress.com and creating an account, getting a free blog there, and they are set up by default to do podcasting. So everything is done for you. You upload the file there, they host it, no cost. How do you go about doing this so that it isn't a lot more work? Now, just as an addendum, this is not going to work for every video. I would not be able to do it with this video. It just doesn't fit the mold. But there are a ton of videos that you can do that this will work with perfectly. For instance, on this channel, I have explainer videos about the Shannara TV series. That is, I'm already doing it with that. That is a perfect example of something that if you go into it knowing you want to do that, you can create 3 different pieces of content from the one video. And this is how you do it. First off, you need to write a script. Most people, you want to do research, you write an outline, go ahead and flesh that out into a real script. Even if you don't follow it word for word, being able to do that means you're going to have a better flow when you're actually in front of the camera. You're going to be able to speak more intelligently about it and feel like more of an expert. It's not off the top of your head. It's not extemporaneous. It's you worked and did it. And if you're doing that anyway, go ahead and make the script and then take that text and make a blog post out of it, because it will match for the most part what you're doing on camera. And boom, you have your first new piece of content. And that was no extra work because you wrote the script or outline anyway to make this video the best it can be. Go ahead and post that on your WordPress blog, on your Medium account, whatever, and then link to it from your YouTube video, and then link to your YouTube video from the post. Easy peasy. The audio podcast thing is a little bit different. It's an extra step, but not a big deal. When you've got your stuff done, your video is ready to go, you've exported it, you're ready to upload it to YouTube or Vimeo or wherever you're going, all you need to do is export the audio. So you export your clip. If you're on a Mac, open it up in QuickTime. There is an export audio only feature in QuickTime, and it exports it as an M4A, MPEG-4 audio file. And at that point, you are done. That file is recognized and supported by Google Play and by Apple. So all you need to do at that point is create some art. So you need to create an artwork for the episode and one for the series, and you need to do a couple of things and fill out some metadata, but it's pretty simple. Doesn't take any time, and once you have it set up, it's easy to do every time. And at that point, you're done. You have taken the one thing you had that you normally do, which is video, and you've produced 3 distinct pieces of content for it. And when you upload your podcast to the different stores, the Google and Apple, you now have another audience that you were missing before, because you have millions of people listening to podcasts and they're looking for things and they're searching and they come across your podcast and say, oh, I want to know how about sharpening knives. This is great. I'm a home cook and I think I'm a foodie, so I need to know how to sharpen my knives correctly because I spent a lot of money on these Japanese knives. And now you have them hooked. They listen to the audio and go, this is great, but I'm still missing something. It would be great if I could see it. And at the end of your podcast, there's the tag. If you would like to see this video that supports this, that goes along with this podcast, here's where my channel is. And boom, they come to your channel, they subscribe because you're giving them content they needed and they wanted, and vice versa. They might come to your video and go, this is great, I don't have time to do a 10-minute video right now, I need to go home. But there's a link in there that says, if you would rather have this as a podcast, click here, subscribe, boom, you're done. And now you went from having someone who thought your idea was good, the concept was good, they wanted to watch it but didn't have the time because they're getting in their car, you have now got them as a podcast subscriber. And you don't lose them. And then they can feed back into the YouTube channel if things work out correctly. And if not, you still have them as a podcast subscriber, and there's money to be made and all of that on that side of things. And the same thing goes for the text, the blog post. That's the most important one for me because it gets you into search engines in a more rich, meaningful way than you get from YouTube or from audio. That alone, if you don't do the audio, I mean, you should because it's stupid simple, but just posting transcripts of your videos on a website and getting them into search engines is massive for discoverability. Don't rely on just being found on YouTube because that is a losing game. There are too many people, too many videos every day being posted, but people millions of times a day, probably billions at this point, are searching on Google for things. You want to be there in the most rich, meaningful way possible so you can capture them and get them to your YouTube channel. So that's it. If you guys want, I can actually film a tutorial doing it, but it's literally click, click, boom. So I don't really think that it's necessary, but if you want to see a video, I'll make one and then make a podcast and a blog post about it. If there's anything else you would like to know, just put it in the comments or hit me on Twitter at Chris J. Davis. I would love to talk to you and create content for you because that's what I live for and why I do this. I guess the only thing left to say is I will see you in the next video, and I hope you have a great day.